typically love acts of solitude.
So all the men from my previous post saying that they have found peace by being alone.
I'd rather be alone than date another woman.
Some men will choose a life of solitude.
While men got multiple women, nah. We just learned peace don't come from multiples.
What happens when millions of men decide that peace, freedom, and solitude are more appealing than modern dating? Why are so many men in 2026 willingly choosing to be alone instead of pursuing relationships? And why does this seem to be leaving many women completely confused? Stay with us until the end of this video, because this quiet shift is changing the dating world in ways nobody expected.
Most women, when they experience pain, what they will typically do is look for comfort with other people, look to share that and be nurtured as they experience the pain. So they endure through the pain by building connections and relying on those connections. Men hate that. When men experience pain, if they then have to go and just be a burden to someone else, they feel worthless. Men need to deal with pain by finding a way through it and finding a purpose through it so that they can push through that pain. If you do that, men can go through the pain and put it in its place because they no longer feel helpless against the pain. There is a reason for enduring the pain. That's what men need.
For years, people assumed that men feared loneliness more than anything. The common belief was that men would always chase relationships because they couldn't handle being alone. But in 2026, that assumption is being challenged.
Ladies, what are we doing wrong? We have to be doing something wrong. Something is not right. Because I have men in my inbox, on my messages, on everywhere, telling me that they do not want to be in a relationship because they choose peace. They chose being alone and being peaceful than being in a relationship with a woman because all we do is cause drama and we nag and all these things, all the reasons.
Why should it blow your mind? In fact, I think you're asking the wrong question. Instead of asking women, ladies, what are we doing wrong? You should be asking men, what are we doing wrong? And then we'll give you the answer. And I'll give you the answer even though you didn't ask the question. Here's the answer. 1, mixed signals. Women say one thing, but they respond to another. They swear they want you to be clingy, up in their face, intentional, but when you do that, they don't respond well. They ghost you. Instead, women actually respond better to being breadcrumbed. Trust me, I know. Other thing is, women are ungrateful. You guys don't appreciate shit. You feel like you're entitled to everything. Another thing, no reciprocity. So now if I do something for you, you won't do anything in return. And you expect it. You consider everything we do the bare minimum, but guess what? You have no bare minimum for yourself. And this is why I think men would rather be alone, because women have high standards for us and low standards for themselves. And honestly, it's just a bad deal overall.
What surprises many women is that these men don't seem lonely at all. They are working on their careers, improving their fitness, building businesses, enjoying hobbies, and creating lives that feel meaningful without constant romantic involvement.
The thing that men seem to hate the most is that we are not as lonely as they are. Not even close. And even if women feel some sense of loneliness, it's not in the same way. Women are still mourning the fairy tale of what they thought men were. So they're off to the side, still working on themselves, still getting a degree, still starting their business, still raising their children, still building a community with other women. They're still doing something. They're going to therapy. They're reading self-help books. They're doing whatever they can. We're still not as lonely, quote unquote, as the men. Not in the same way, at least.
A lot of men became tired of modern dating. The emotional uncertainty, endless expectations, and pressure to constantly prove themselves pushed many to step back and reevaluate what actually makes them happy.
A lot of women are incredibly irrational with what they consider to be acceptable behavior. Think about this. A woman who aggressively confronts a man, or raises her voice, or stands up for herself is considered to be brave and powerful and strong and independent. But when a man does the exact same thing, he's being toxically masculine. At the same time, women will preach that their ability to show emotion makes them more secure and emotionally intelligent. But when they get into an argument with a man, they'll say things like, "I don't know why you're being so emotional," as though it's suddenly a bad thing. So they celebrate acting like toxically masculine men while accusing men of being evil for the exact same behavior. And then they'll mock and belittle men for doing things that they themselves take pride in. So do the math. Women are celebrated for acting both extremely masculine and extremely feminine, while men are ridiculed for both. Still think feminism is about equality? Okay.
And once men discover they can enjoy life without relationship stress, many become protective of that peace. They stop viewing solitude as a punishment and start seeing it as freedom.
This movement is one of the biggest reasons for the divorce rate, because women have become so masculine. A woman gets in her masculine energy. A lot of times she'll be disrespectful to her husband. And men don't do well with disrespect. There's surveys that say that 80% of men say they would rather be alone and unloved than to be disrespected. And see, the feminist movement has taken it so far over the years to, it's not just equal rights anymore. Now it's men are being diminished and devalued and demoralized. What do we need men for? We don't need men. We can buy our own cars and we can vote. We can make our own money, run our own businesses. We can even have babies without men. And that makes men feel awful. A man doesn't feel he has anything to contribute to that woman's life. He's got to move on down the road.
Social media has accelerated this trend. Men see countless stories about relationship drama, breakups, and emotional burnout, making many question whether chasing relationships should remain their top priority.
This is an interesting perspective I hadn't considered initially, the fact that men typically love acts of solitude. I would argue that women also do. Like, I don't know if it's necessarily a gender thing. Maybe it's more of a personality thing of like you're introverted versus extroverted. But also, if we're gonna play the gender thing here, think about back in our evolution, like men were the ones that were more tribal. They were the ones going out hunting, killing, like trying to survive. Whereas the women were doing more of the domesticated tasks, probably by themselves, actually. So I'm not actually sure if it's like a male versus female thing as far as solitude and doing things by yourself. What comes to mind for me is how men are actually way less communicative, generally speaking, about their emotions comparative to women. Like, women, you can sit in a room and have a catch-up conversation and it's like, you know, literally everything. Men, like, you can sit in a room and talk for hours, but like at the end of the hangout, you're like, what did we even just discuss? Like, you don't really get any sort of understanding of that person's emotional state or what's really going on in their life. And I think it's like that inability to be open and to connect and to be vulnerable men to men is what's creating this issue around loneliness.
What catches many women off guard is that these men aren't angry or bitter. They are simply content. And a man who is genuinely content alone becomes much harder to influence through attention or validation.
So all the men from my previous post saying that they have found peace by being alone and they're not trying to date because they just want peace. Are you trying to say that we don't bring peace to your life?
Oh, they didn't try to say anything. They flat out said that they'd rather be by themselves and peaceful than to be with some of the women that are available out there.
I have to disagree.
Of course there would be some women that have to disagree with that statement because they simply cannot bring themselves to believe that many men, especially after seeing what's out there in the dating market, would rather be single, and they're actually happier being so.
I do not think that if a woman that you so desired was available to you, you would choose peace over commitment, sex, good meals with conversation, and things like that. So I'm going to call your bluff.
Some women simply don't get it. Because none of those things that were listed are actually what brings a man peace in a relationship. And if we're being really honest with ourselves, most men can get all of those perks of being in a relationship without actually being in one. So quite frankly, ladies, some of you are going to have to start accepting that men can be happy by themselves. I know that comes as a surprise.
Many bachelors are now focusing on money, health, travel, friendships, and personal goals. The more they invest in themselves, the less urgent dating begins to feel.
So apparently the male loneliness epidemic is man-made. Effectively, it's the men's fault that they're lonely. I watched a post about this the other day where this girl was saying men only have themselves to blame for the male epidemic, the loneliness epidemic, because of the whole red pill movement, the whole 80-20 thing, toxic masculinity, all of that. It's men's own fault that they are lonely. And obviously this is complete crap. What has actually happened is that men have realised that they would rather be lonely, that they would rather be alone than have to deal with today's modern woman who is just completely entitled, toxic femininity. You hear so much about toxic masculinity, but you don't hear a lot about toxic femininity, which is rife in social media. But yeah, men are lonely. Men are more lonely than ever before, but they are actually happier being lonely than they are being with today's women. That is how bad it is. the dating scene for men at the moment, that they would rather be lonely, not have the kisses, not have the cuddles, not have the affection, not have the love, than have to put up with today's women who cheat, want the world and give nothing in return. We've talked about this before, the whole princess treatment thing. And yeah, men would rather feel like devastatingly lonely than have to deal with today's women. So that is my 2 cents on that. Just let everyone know I have lost my phone. I'm filming on someone else's phone at the moment. So if I don't reply to messages as quickly as I normally do, it's because I don't have a phone at the moment. I will be doing a sub video later today. Again, if I don't reply to your comments, that doesn't mean that I don't appreciate them. I 100% do. But I just don't have access to a phone until the weekend when I'm going to go and buy a new one. But yeah, everyone have a great day. It is raining here, so I'm going to stay inside.
The biggest twist is that this isn't a loud movement. Men aren't making speeches about it. They're simply participating less in dating culture and quietly enjoying their lives.
I keep seeing comments from men saying, I'd rather be alone than date another woman, and how happy they are in their solitude. And honestly, I get where they're coming from. A lot of times, these guys are a bit older, maybe they've been divorced, maybe they've gone through some heartbreak, custody battles, some real trauma. That pain obviously shapes how you see the world. But what actually worries me is the younger generations reading this, because as a mom of 3, I obviously want my kids to believe in healthy love and have happy marriage. So when you say all women are toxic and that marriage isn't worth it and that divorce is inevitable, what advice are you giving to young men? Never try, never grow, never risk love? I'm not saying ignore your trauma, I'm saying don't turn it into your identity. Maybe instead of men versus women, both sides could pause, look in the mirror, and ask, how can we do better?
As this trend grows, more women are realizing something unexpected. The men they assumed would always be chasing relationships are becoming comfortable with solitude instead.
Some men will choose a life of solitude, simply because they've been so hurt by women in the past. They don't know how to trust women, and honestly, they don't even know if it's worth it. So if this man is willing to let you into his heart, and he's willing to work on things, he's gonna require patience and reassurance. But know that if you're in that spot, he's not gonna let you go.
And that leads to an interesting question. If men no longer view being single as a problem, how much will that change the future of dating?
You know where women messed up at? They let men live alone. And once we got our own space, our own peace, we finally saw everything for what it was. All them patterns from our mamas, our aunties, our cousins, our exes, they started connecting, and now we understand why the love felt heavy, why peace felt foreign, why help came with control. They said, see why men got multiple women? Nah, we just learned peace don't come from multiples, it comes in solitude, from boundaries to finally saying no without explaining. Now they call it cold, distant, detached, but really we just learned how to breathe without chaos.
So here's the real question. Are men choosing solitude because they've given up on relationships, or because they've discovered that peace can be just as rewarding?
Men stopped playing by the rules, and now everyone's freaking out. Let's break down why silence has become the loudest move.